I am a One Piece hater. Throughout all my time in anime, I've always hated one anime in particular, One Piece. The reason I hated it was simply because it's too long, and I heard the pacing was bad. That was it. So, as time went on, I kind of felt like my hating for it was kind of unjustified. Because, how can I say I hate something that I haven't watched? How can I say I dislike something for not knowing anything about it? To say you hate something and you don't know anything about it, it's kind of ignorant to me. It's like saying you don't like apples, but you've never had an apple in your life before. It's like, how do you know? That's how I'm like with One Piece. I hate One Piece because the length and the pacing. Yet I've never actually really experienced it. The closest I've gotten was browsing at the live action, but at the same time, that's a completely different monster than from the actual anime. One Piece has always been a weird anime to me. It's 1,000+ episodes, and to all the people who like it, that's good for them, but it's always been weird, because they'll say, oh, it gets good after episode 500. To me, that sounded really weird. It's like, if I stuck myself with needles every day, eventually it's gonna start feeling good. It's like, no. Why would I do that? Another thing that's been keeping me from watching One Piece are the fans. One Piece fans to me have always been so weird. I'll be talking about one anime, and they'll always manage to find a way to sneak One Piece into the topic. I'll be like, yeah, I really like Attack on Titan's foreshadowing. And they'll hit me with, yeah, Attack on Titan's foreshadowing is good. But have you seen One Piece's? Have you seen what happened here? This author, he foreshadowed something that happened here, and then it happened 1,000 chapters later. Sure, that's cool and all, but I was talking about Attack on Titan. Again, I could be talking about Naruto, and they'll just bring up One Piece is better, and I'm like, oh. Now, why should someone's like me, why should my opinion matter? Well, to be frank, some of the first anime I ever watched in my life were certified bangers, as some would say. Whenever I do try to talk to a One Piece fan about getting into the anime, they're like, no. You actually have to read it instead. I'd be confused, and I'm like, I was talking about the anime. I want to watch the anime. If I wanted to read the manga, I would have just read it, because at that point I could read it at my own pace. I wouldn't need to worry about weekly releases or anything, but it's always been odd to me. Is the pacing really that bad that they'll have you just read the manga instead? So it had me thinking, what if I try to watch One Piece? If I hate it so much, my opinion wouldn't change, right? If I have such a deep-seated hatred for One Piece, then I wouldn't end up liking it, right? So I decided this. How about I watch one season of One Piece?
Now, to any One Piece fans watching this, you may notice I'm starting at Drum Island. The reason for that is the time lapse for the first 80 episodes broke and my phone ran out of storage. I initially recorded all 80 episodes at one big time lapse, and that was a bad idea. But overall, before I got to Drum Island, it was pretty painful. I really didn't care for any of the cast until Sanji joined in, and even then it still sucked, but the pacing was bad. It felt unattached to any of the characters. Sanji's backstory was good. It was really nice, but he had a lot of flaws, such as being such a creep. That didn't really make me like him a lot, but yeah, that's all I could really say about that. And Nami's arc was fun. It was cool, but I couldn't really feel too attached to her at the same time. For some weird reason, it was a good backstory. Looking back on it now, or thinking back, it was a good backstory. It's just I didn't really like it. I didn't really care. And then here we are onto Drum Island, and yeah, Drum Island's fun. Drum Island was good. Jeez, I can't speak. Yeah, I liked it. It still suffers from some of the pacing issues, but I felt like it wasn't too big of a deal for me at this point because, yeah, I got kind of used to it after 90 episodes. I would hope I would get used to it at that point, but it's still painful. And now the video is going to cut over to my reaction at the moment. A live reaction, I guess you could say.
You see, I think this arc is almost over. I'm on episode 89. I'm about to go into episode 90. I am enjoying the story moments. Like, they're nice. I like Chopper. I really like Chopper. He's a cool character. Oh my god, is the pacing bad. They had a flashback to something that happened 3 episodes ago, and I'm like, really? did we really need that? Then I got to try to remember that, like, oh yeah, this was a anime made a long time ago, so, and it was weekly. But still, even then, I'm just like, okay, alright, well, I don't know why we need that now. Then, the fight scenes, the fight between Chopper and the 2 dudes, it just kind of sucked. It was slow. But, my goodness, the pacing is so bad. It's bad. It's real bad.
That being said, I really liked how this arc finished off and how they had the little send-off with the cherry blossoms and everything. And at this point, I felt like the Straw Hats really began to feel like a group of friends, because before they kind of felt like forced, but now it felt really organic. And I finally got to see the meme. I finally got to see the lore behind that, I guess. I initially anticipated that to be like a really sad scene, in the sense of like, I don't know, someone died, but I'm glad to see that I learned the context, and it was actually pretty nice. Pretty wholesome, I guess you could say. But with that being said, we move on to the next arc.